Well, joining us right now, let's take a look at this week's weather update. Eric Snodgrass with Conduit is with us as it sounds like, Eric, it's going to be another busy weather week for many folks here across the U.S. We got cold air up north, potential for maybe some precipitation in the Midwest and more. So, set this up for us. How are things looking in this week ahead?
Well, the setup is the fact that finally the temperature pattern reoriented itself, right? So for most of January, it was super cold east, warm west. Therefore, the flow drove north south in between the two, and that's why we are in early January, mid January, late January saw all of our storm systems tracking very far to the south, including the historic snowfall event that hit New Orleans, right? And of course, where we had Super Bowl last night. Anyway, it's different now. It's all very mild across the south and extremely cold up north. I mean, just to make a point here, we're going to have temperatures for the next 5 days. They're going to average over the next 5 days at least 20 degrees below normal. And just so we're aware, this is the coldest time of year, right, for the central part of the United States. So we're 20 degrees colder than normal during the coldest time of year. All right, the flow's got to go between it. And what that's going to do is that's going to just hammer these systems that are going to hit the mid-south hard. They're going to hit parts of the southeast toward the Appalachian Mountains hard. In fact, I got an ice risk across the Appalachian Mountains coming up soon. It's going to hit the northeast hard. Big question is, where's the snow going to be? All right. So on the backside of it, I could pick out Kansas, parts of Missouri, sections of Iowa, southeast Iowa, Illinois, but really getting to southern Wisconsin, really getting into parts of Michigan, northern Indiana, they're going to get hit hard. That's that Corn Belt region is going to get hit hard with a lot of snow. Now, you go any farther south than that, it's going to be transition, freezing rain, sleet. It's going to be rain south of that. We have spots that across, let's just draw a line here from eastern Texas to West Virginia. Can you guys see that in your mind's eye? That whole region in the middle there will likely be a spot that gets 8 inches of rain. And that could include parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, that could hit northern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. So that's where we are. 5 systems in the next 10 to 12 days. And remember, they're also going to hit parts of the West, which is going to dump a ton of snow into the Sierra Nevada mountains, which need it. Now, I say all of that to remind you of who's not getting it.
Yeah.
There was snow that hit parts of the northern plains in the upper Midwest over the weekend. Great. How much? Most places got 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, little pockets of 6 to 8. There's still 20-inch deficits in that area. In the next 10 days, the Canadian prairie is dry. The northern plains miss out on a lot of this. And remember, there is still fall drought lingering underneath that. Who else is missing? The Southwest United States, Western Texas. And until we start to see those holes fill in, we just have this risk of watching drought build in places that it's been building. And so I can't take that out of the back of my mind going forward. But yeah, super active next 10 to 12 days. But how do we finish the month? How do we start spring? That's the big question.
Well, and I know you're looking at some newer, longer range data as well that we can at least, it can give us a bit of an idea. But, it's one of those things where, to your point, we got to see how we finish the month, see how
Yeah.
things could change, et cetera, Eric.
Yeah. So there's some pretty cold air that's diving in. And unfortunately, by the time we get to, I don't know, 12 days from now, it's going to be just digging its way into the southeast. And I don't want that. I want the southeast to stay warm. And the reason for that is that keeps the active pattern around. So we could go back into a bit of a lull with the jet stream just kind of backing off again. But I just looked at some of the morning model runs through the equinox, which is, that's March 21st, right? It keeps much of the eastern Corn Belt through the northeast wet. It keeps the Pacific Northwest wet, but that leaves a lot of the plains, the southern plains, especially down toward Mexico, on the drier side of things. And that's where we're concerned about drought creeping. So you want me to give you my brief thoughts on what I think the spring is going to be? I think we're going to be struggling with intrusions of cold air all the way through mid to late March. Doesn't mean they're going to be around forever, but they're just going to punctuate and punch. I think that if you're along the mid-Mississippi to the Ohio River Valley, very wet, and that includes you and me, Jesse. So we're going to be seeing some wetter than average conditions that are going to be pushing us toward possibly tighter planting windows. And then my worry is that we get into the late spring months and we're going to watch the plains grow drier and drier and encroach on the Mississippi Valley by the time we get into midsummer. We haven't seen that particular setup in a while, and I think it's just something to be concerned about. Now, what could make me wrong? La Nina, if it fades hard, just gets out of there quickly, that's one piece of it. 2, if the waters along the west coast of North America get warm and stay warm, that whole narrative is gone. That means the atmosphere's got momentum. We're going to send systems through. And 3, if anything can come in between now and April and finally return some soil moisture. I mean, but you got to warm up to do that, right? If
Mhm.
that happens, man, we will not be talking about the risk of drought. We'll be talking about too much water across key states going forward. And it just seems to always be one or the other. Like, I'd like to have a spring that we could just call, hey, it's close to average. And doesn't seem to be the way the atmosphere wants to behave right now. So, yeah, plenty to talk about in these coming months.
Anything else with the US side that you're watching this week real quick before we talk South America, Eric?
I would just tell folks, watch where the temperature pattern ends up by February 20th. 10 days from now, if we go back to cold east to warm west, that's not a good signal to return better flow to start the month of March.
Okay. All right. Good thoughts to think about. Let's talk South America. We know we've been watching a lot of issues down there in various pockets. How are things looking this week?
Well, we looked at some of the, planting and harvesting numbers. So the planting of safrina after the harvest of first crop soybeans in Mato Grosso, they made a pretty big jump because it got a little bit drier in that area. They needed it to be drier in that area. The 15-day forecast for much of Brazil is drier, not dry, but drier, which means they're probably going to continue to make some significant progress on both those numbers, harvesting of beans, planting of safrina crop. As we look at it, Argentina's driest regions are, forecast by all the major models to get better rains as well. So net effect of that forecast is there's not a whole lot in there. Again, that's a bullish story that would work against their bigger numbers that we're expecting out of them. We will be questioning the drought risk on the safrina crop, but Jesse, I need to do a little more digging into that, and you and I can talk about it in subsequent weeks.
All right, that sounds good. I know as well, folks can find all the latest weather information on your website, agweather.com, can't they, Eric?
Oh, yeah. ag-wx.com. And we're in the middle of this month of February with a redesign. I can't wait to show it to you come March 1st. We're going to release that at Commodity Classic. You gonna be down at Commodity Classic, Jesse?
I will be.
All right.
So we'll look forward to seeing the revamp there in person, Eric.
It'll be fun. New national reports going out. Plus, we're going to have a live, daily kind of thought stream just to keep folks aware of what we're seeing in terms of impactful weather on ag as we go into the growing season, and some new metrics I've been developing that help us understand stress on crops. So hopefully we'll have those new metrics released in April. My plan is to finish those in March, but it'll all be a part of this new redesign that, partnerships like I have with you and others allow me to do. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, that's going to be a lot of fun to see, and hard to believe Commodity Classic's only a couple of weeks away in Denver, Colorado. Hopefully, we don't have a major snowstorm during Commodity, Eric.
I know, but I'm telling you something. If you start hearing me the week before you go there talking about flow out of the east,
Mm.
we are going to get to Denver and be. I'll be pleasantly surprised. Everyone else will be pissed, and that's okay. It's just one of those things that, boy, March snowstorms in the Front Range are the thing of legend, and they can happen. And we'll keep an eye out if something like that occurs.
Well, we're going to track that with you along with the rest of the weather situation here each and every week on the show. Appreciate the time. Agweather.com for more, ag-wx.com. Eric Snodgrass with Conduit. Have a great week, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, you too, Jesse. Take care.